All right, good morning, everyone. It is April the 4th. Yesterday we celebrated Good Friday, commemorating when Jesus died for us on the cross. And now today is Saturday, is a day of waiting. And we wait and we wait for the resurrection. And how important it is, that Jesus came and died for us. We've got a world that is lost, right? We've all been in brokenness. We all understand what it means to live with our worlds, just colliding with darkness, and that's what we're reading about, right? We're reading and discovering kind of that 10,000 foot view. We're seeing how humanity is, the heart of humanity is sick, and even the chosen people, the people of God, this family that God chose, right? He chose them and said, I want to bless you. I want to work through you. I want the entire world to be blessed through you. And God establishes this amazing covenant with Abraham and his family, and this is the family that we're looking at. And it's kind of almost like this family is a microcosm of the greater of greater humanity, right? It's if you look at it and you see the continuous struggle that this family has and will continue to have. There's such a need for a savior. There's such a need for somebody to come in to redeem us and to not only atone for our sins, but to transform our hearts, because humanity continues to gravitate towards sin and brokenness, and that's what's happening with the Israelites, right? Even in the book of Judges, we see this continual digression, if you will, into sin. It's interesting because those who would espouse this philosophy of evolution, the evolution of man, you would think that if we believed and agreed with evolution, this theory of evolution, which I don't believe in. I believe in biblical Christianity and biblical understanding of history from creation on. But if you believed in evolution, then you would think that the human species would evolve even morally. But we don't. We're only getting worse and worse, and we continue to repeat these cycles of sin. And so this is what we are examining and seeing, and we need a savior. We need a savior. Humanity left to our own demise, we destroy ourselves. We turn on each other. We even family turns on each other, and we need God to change this, to change our hearts, to take the heart of stone out and to have a heart of flesh put in, to change our minds, the way we think. And we need that, and Jesus brings something completely new, completely different for us, and thank God for that. So let's jump back into Judges chapter 11, and just reminds us again of this 10,000 foot view. We're seeing what sin does, and here's the reality. The Bible shares the good, the bad, and the ugly, even about the people of God. And so we see it and we watch it, and by the way, even of leadership, we see leadership failures. We're not the only ones, the only time in history to see spiritual leaders fail. We see spiritual leaders fail all throughout the Bible. And again, it's because if we aren't careful, the enemy comes in and he tries to steal, kill, and destroy, right? And he tries to, cause leaders to get their eyes off from God, and to get them on other things, onto power, or to get them onto control, or to get them onto riches and various things like that, or power or prestige. And so that's what we see here happening as well. So let's jump back in April 4th, Judges chapter 11, starting at verse 29. We're still learning about Jephthah. At that time, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he went throughout the land of Gilead and Manasseh, including Mizpah in Gilead, and from there he led an army against the Ammonites. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, and he said, "If you give me victory over the Ammonites, I will give to the Lord whatever comes out of my house to meet me when I return in triumph. I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." So Jephthah led his army against the Ammonites, and the Lord gave him victory. He crushed the Ammonites, devastating about 20 towns, and from Aroer to an area near Minnith, and as far away as Abel Kirim. And in this way Israel defeated the Ammonites. And when Jephthah returned home to Mizpah, his daughter came out to meet him, playing on a tambourine and dancing for joy. She was his one and only child. He had no other sons or daughters. And when he saw her, he tore his clothes in anguish. "Oh, my daughter," he cried out, "you have completely destroyed me. You've brought disaster on me, for I have made a vow to the Lord, and I cannot take it back." And she said, "Father, if you have made a vow to the Lord, you must do to me what you have vowed, for the Lord has given you a great victory over your enemies, the Ammonites. But first let me do this one thing. Let me go up and roam in the hills and weep with my friends for 2 months, because I will die a virgin." "You may go," Jephthah said, and he sent her away for 2 months. And she and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never have children. And when she returned home, her father kept the vow he had made, and she died a virgin. So it has become a custom in Israel for young Israelite women, to go away for 4 days each year to lament the fate of Jephthah's daughter. Just before we move on, I think it's probably appropriate to talk about making sure that we don't make foolish vows. We see with Jephthah, he made a foolish vow. First of all, God was going to give him victory, period. God didn't give Jephthah a victory because he made an oath that he would sacrifice whatever came out the door first, or that he would give it to, God first. I mean, that's a foolish vow. God wasn't moved because Jephthah was willing to give his daughter. God was going to give the victory no matter what. And Jephthah proved in this moment to make a really foolish decision, to make this vow. And so this is not something that would be considered a godly vow whatsoever. So let's keep going. Judges chapter 12. Then the people of Ephraim mobilized an army and crossed over the Jordan River to Zephon. And they sent this message to Jephthah: Why didn't you call for us to help you fight against the Ammonites? We're going to burn down your house with you in it." This is a fellow Israelite tribe, by the way. Jephthah replied, "I summoned you at the beginning of the dispute, but you refused to come. You failed to help us in our struggle against Ammon. So when I realized you weren't coming, I risked my life and went to battle without you, and the Lord gave me a victory over the Ammonites. So why have you now come to fight me?" The people of Ephraim responded, "You men of Gilead are nothing more than fugitives from Ephraim and Manasseh." So Jephthah gathered all the men of Gilead and attacked the men of Ephraim and defeated them. Jephthah captured the shallow crossings of the Jordan River, and whenever a fugitive from Ephraim tried to go back across, the men of Gilead would challenge him. "Are you a member of the tribe of Ephraim?" they would ask, and if the man said, "No, I'm not," they would tell him to say Shibboleth. If he was from Ephraim, he would say Sibboleth, because the people from Ephraim cannot pronounce the word correctly. Then they would take him and kill him at the shallow crossings of the Jordan. In all, 42,000 Ephraimites were killed at that time. And Jephthah judged Israel for 6 years. When he died, he was buried in one of the towns of Gilead. So you see this internal battling between the tribes. Okay, Judges 12:8. After Jephthah died, Isban from Bethlehem judged Israel. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He sent his daughters to marry men outside his clan, And he brought in 30 young women from outside his clan to marry his sons. And Ibzan judged Israel for 7 years, and when he died, he was buried at Bethlehem. After Ibzan died, Elon from the tribe of Zebulun judged Israel for 10 years, and when he died, he was buried at Aijalon in Zebulun. After Elon died, Abdon, the son of Hillel from Pirathon, judged Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys. He judged Israel for 8 years, and when he died, he was buried at Pirathon in Ephraim in the hill country of the Amalekites. Judges 13. Again, the Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight, so the Lord handed them over to the Philistines, who oppressed them for 40 years. And in those days, a man named Manoah from the tribe of Dan lived in the town of Zorah. His wife was unable to become pregnant, and they had no children. The angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife and said, "Even though you have been unable to have children, you will soon become pregnant and give birth to a son. So be careful. You must not drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, nor eat any forbidden food. You will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and his hair must never be cut. For he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. He will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines." And the woman ran and told her husband, "A man of God appeared to me. He looked like one of God's angels, terrifying to see. I didn't ask where he was from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he told me, 'You will become pregnant and give birth to a son. You must not drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, nor eat any forbidden food. For your son will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite from the moment of his birth until the day of his death.' And then Manoah prayed to the Lord, saying, 'Lord, please let the man of God come back to us again and give us more instructions about this son who is to be born.' And God answered Manoah's prayer, and the angel of God appeared once again to his wife as she was sitting in the field. But her husband Manoah was not with her, so she quickly ran and told her husband, 'The man who appeared to me the other day is here again.' Manoah ran back with his wife and asked, 'Are you the man who spoke to my wife the other day?' 'Yes,' he replied, 'I am.' So Manoah asked him, 'When your words come true, what kind of ruler should govern the boy's life? What kind of rules should govern the boy's life and work?' The angel of the Lord replied, 'Be sure your wife follows the instructions I gave her. She must not eat grapes or raisins, drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, or eat any forbidden food.' Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, 'Please stay here until we can prepare a young goat for you to eat.' 'I will stay,' the angel of the Lord replied, 'but I will not eat anything. However, you may prepare a burnt offering as a sacrifice to the Lord.' Manoah didn't realize it was the angel of the Lord. And then Manoah asked the angel of the Lord, 'What is your name? For when all this comes true, we want to honor you.' 'Why do you ask my name?' the angel of the Lord replied. 'Is it too wonderful for you to understand?' And then Manoah took a young goat and a grain offering and offered it on a rock as a sacrifice to the Lord. And as Manoah and his wife watched, the Lord did an amazing thing. As the flames from the altar shot up toward the sky, the angel of the Lord ascended in the fire. And when Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell with their faces to the ground. The angel did not appear again to Manoah and his wife. Manoah finally realized it was the angel of the Lord, and he said to his wife, 'We will certainly die, for we have seen God.' But his wife said, 'If the Lord were going to kill us, he wouldn't have accepted our burnt offering and grain offering. He wouldn't have appeared to us and told us this wonderful thing and done these miracles.' And when her son was born, she named him Samson. And the Lord blessed him as he grew up. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he lived in Mahane Dan, which is located between the towns of Zorah and Estal. Judges 14. One day when Samson was in Timnah, one of the Philistine women caught his eye. When he returned home, he told his father and mother, 'A young Philistine woman in Timnah caught my eye. I want to marry her. Get her for me.' His father and mother objected. 'Isn't there even one woman in our tribe or among all the Israelites you could marry?' they asked. 'Why must you go to the pagan Philistines to find a wife?' But Samson told his father, 'Get her for me. She looks good to me.' And his father and mother didn't realize the Lord was at work in this, creating an opportunity to work against the Philistines who ruled over Israel at that time. As Samson and his parents were going down to Timnah, a young lion suddenly attacked Samson near the vineyard of Timnah. At that moment, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, and he ripped the lion's jaws apart with his bare hands. He did it as easily as if it were a young goat, but he didn't tell his father or mother about it. When Samson arrived in Timnah, he talked with the woman and was very pleased with her. Later, when he returned to Timnah for the wedding, he turned off the path to look at the carcass of the lion, and he found that a swarm of bees had made some honey in the carcass. He scooped some of the honey into his hands and ate it along the way. He also gave some to his father and mother, and they ate it. But he didn't tell them he had taken the honey from the carcass of the lion. Which, by way, is that makes them ceremonially unclean. Remember, the angel of the Lord said to make sure that he didn't eat anything that was unclean. And so we see already behavior that is wrong. As an Israelite, he's going after a Philistine girl. He is eating food out of the carcass of a dead animal, which, again, makes him unclean. And so we see behavior that is already suspicious, right, and wrong. Well, as his father was making final arrangements for the marriage, Samson threw a party at Timnah, as was the custom for elite young men. When the bride's parents saw him, they selected 30 young men from the town to be his companions. And Samson said to them, "Let me tell you a riddle. If you solve my riddle during these 7 days of the celebration, I will give you 30 fine linen robes and 30 sets of festive clothing. But if you can't solve it, then you must give me 30 fine linen robes and 30 sets of festive clothing." "All right," they agreed, "let's hear your riddle." So he said, "Out of the one who eats came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." 3 days later, they were still trying to figure it out, and on the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband to explain the riddle for us, or we will burn down your father's house with you in it. Did you invite us to this party just to make us poor?" So Samson's wife came to him in tears and said, "You don't love me, you hate me, you have given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." "I haven't even given the answer to my father or mother," he replied. "Why should I tell you?" So she cried whenever she was with him and kept it up for the rest of the celebration. At last, on the 7th day, he told her the answer because she was tormenting him with her nagging. Then she explained the riddle to the young men. So before sunset of the 7th day, the men of the town came to Samson with their answer. "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson replied, "If you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have solved my riddle." Then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, and he went down to the town of Ashkelon and killed 30 men, took their belongings, and gave their clothing to the men who had solved his riddle. But Samson was furious about what had happened, and he went back home to live with his father and mother. And so his wife was given in marriage to the man who had been Samson's best man at the wedding. Judges 15. Later on, during the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat as a present to his wife. And he said, "I'm going into my wife's room to sleep with her," but her father wouldn't let him. "I truly thought you must hate her," her father explained, "so I gave her in marriage to your best man. But look, her younger sister is even more beautiful than she is. Marry her instead." Samson said, "This time I cannot be blamed for everything I'm going to do to you Philistines." Then he went out and caught 300 foxes. He tied their tails together in pairs, and he fastened a torch to each pair of tails, and then he lit the torches and let the foxes run through the grain fields of the Philistines. He burned all their grain to the ground, including the sheaves and the uncut grain. He also destroyed their vineyards and olive groves. "Who did this?" the Philistines demanded, and Samson was the reply, because his father-in-law from Timnah gave Samson's wife to be married to his best man. So the Philistines went and got the woman and her father and burned them to death. Because you did this, Samson vowed, I won't rest until I take my revenge on you. So he attacked the Philistines with great fury and killed many of them. Then he went to live in a cave in the rock of Edom. And the Philistines retaliated by setting up camp in Judah and spreading out near the town of Lehi. The men of Judah asked the Philistines, Why are you attacking us? The Philistines replied, We've come to capture Samson. We've come to pay him back for what he did to us. So 3,000 men of Judah went down to get Samson at the rock in the cave, at the cave in the rock of Edom. And they said to Samson, Don't you realize the Philistines rule over us? What are you doing to us? But Samson replied, I only did to them what they did to me. But the men of Judah told him, We have come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. All right, Samson said, but promise that you won't kill me yourselves. We will only tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines, they replied. We won't kill you. So they tied him up with 2 new ropes and brought him from the rock. As Samson arrived in Lehi, the Philistines came shouting in triumph. But the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon Samson, and he snapped the ropes on his arms, as if they were burnt strands of flax, and they fell from his wrists. And then he found the jawbone of a recently killed donkey. He picked it up, and he killed 1,000 Philistines with it. And then Samson said, With the jawbone of a donkey, I've piled them in heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I've killed 1,000 men. And when he finished his boasting, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was named Jawbone Hill. Samson was now very thirsty, and he cried out to the Lord, You have accomplished this great victory by the strength of your servant. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of these pagans? So God caused water to gush out of a hollow in the ground at Lehi. And Samson was revived as he drank. And then he named that place the spring of the one who cried out. And it is still Lehi to this day. Samson judged Israel for 20 years during the period when the Philistines dominated the land. Okay. So it isn't fascinating, isn't it? The Philistines are dominating the land, and God is using a very flawed individual. Samson has great strength. God is going to use that, but Samson was also a very, very flawed person. He would go into fits of rage. He struggled with self-control. Greatly. And, obviously God was able to use this to subdue the Philistines, but Samson was far, far from a godly leader. Had tremendous amount of flaws. And it's interesting because God will use somebody even with great flaws to accomplish his purpose and his will. And it just reminds me of of various leaders that we see people, nations, leaders that rise up, and God may use them for a time period, but it doesn't mean that they don't have flaws. And so again, kind of just keep a 10,000-foot view here, and see what's happening with the nation of Israel. See what's happening with their leadership. See what's happening with their nation, the tribes, and not working together. We see a spirit of disunity, a spirit of division in the nation of Israel. All of this is caused by sin. They are not being faithful to follow God. And so as they are not being faithful to follow God, the flesh is winning out over the nation, and the nation is beginning to really crumble. And we'll see that all the way up through the book of Judges. And we're going to see that all the way up through the book of Samuel, until finally there's a civil war in the nation, and the nation splits in half. Okay, and so we'll see a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom develop in Israel after they have a civil war. So we're moving up to that place of what happens when a nation begins to wander away from God, not follow faithfully, and we're seeing those things played out for us hundreds of years, okay, kind of mashed in these books, and so keep that in mind. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, you know. But for those nations who wander away from God over the period of hundreds and hundreds of years, we can see we can see the sin cycle playing out, and we can see people living, and suffering because of it. And yeah, we see it in real life right here. This is a history book in some ways of the people of God, and also a book of theology that teaches us what it means to worship God and what happens when we don't. And so I hope these lessons help as we continue working our way through the book of Judges. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless you. I hope you really have a great day.